The film begins in 1981 in Nevada. We're introduced to the main character named Kenny, who works for his father in gold mining. Their family has been in the gold mining business for several generations, ever since Kenny's grandfather found a deposit almost 100 years ago. Their family became prospectors. One day, Kenny brings his girlfriend Kay to show her what he does. She seems to have expected something different. Big machines, crowds of workers with shovels. But Kenny gently explains how their business works. They don't dig randomly. First, they spend a lot of time and effort studying different locations around the world. They run exploratory drills to analyze the land for gold content. After that, they raise money from investors, and only then do they start mining, hoping to find the yellow metal.
Kenny!
You like it?
I love you.
At this moment, his father calls him in for a talk. He shares wisdom accumulated over years in this business. He talks about how difficult this work can be and reminds Kenny that one day he'll have to take over the company completely. And he hands over one mine entirely to our hero's management.
Scale it up. Make it yours.
Yes, sir.
The action jumps forward 7 years. Much has changed. The company is going through hard times and is on the verge of collapse. Kenny and Kay are now married, but they have serious financial problems. Things have gotten so bad that they're running the business out of some bar instead of a proper office. On top of everything, Kenny's father has died, and now he's forced to deal with the company's problems alone, just as his father wished. Due to money troubles, he and Kay sold their big house and moved into a smaller one. Despite all this, hope still lives in Kenny. Although he doesn't own any mines, his job is to search for potential sites where gold might be found. His responsibilities include convincing investors to finance excavations and cover all expenses. Recently, he and his team found a very promising site, and now he needs to find investors. Kenny tries to arrange a meeting with a potential investor, but the investor refuses to meet with him. Instead, the investor sends 2 of his employees who aren't particularly interested in gold. This angers Kenny, but he still tells them all the details about the deposit and the required investment amount.
And that's money. Not our money.
Without even studying the plan, the employees reject Kenny's offer. With each passing day, his financial situation gets worse. After this rejection, his company is literally ready to shut down. He calls everyone he knows, hoping to find help, but without success.
Minerals out there, we just gotta find them, right?
Yeah, all right. Thank you for your tackle.
In desperation, he gets drunk and passes out. All this time, his loving wife stays by his side. No matter how poor and lost Kenny becomes, she continues to support him. One night, Kenny has a dream. In it, he finds himself in the mountains of Indonesia together with a geologist named Michael Acosta. In the dream, the 2 of them discover a gold mine and organize the extraction.
He was what they call a river walker. They're a real hands-on geologist, real deal.
The dream feels so real that it completely changes Kenny's thinking. Michael Acosta is a real person, well known in the world of geology. He discovered the largest copper deposit in Asia. Michael also has a theory he calls the Ring of Fire. It suggests that a certain part of Indonesia might hide a massive gold deposit. Kenny wakes up with determination to find Mike. He finds his business card among his things and realizes it's a sign. He quietly prepares for the trip to Indonesia, telling Kay about it at the very last moment. He sells some of his gold jewelry to pay for the trip. Upon arrival, he checks into the same hotel where Michael Acosta is staying. When they finally meet, Michael immediately notices that Kenny is in a desperate situation, though he himself is also experiencing financial difficulties. Kenny confidently shares his plan with Michael. He proposes teaming up to search for gold based on the Ring of Fire theory. Kenny says he believes in this idea with all his heart and is ready to take an enormous risk. He declares he's ready to bet absolutely everything on it. At first, Michael calls Kenny crazy and tries to leave. But then he changes his mind and asks Kenny if he brought a hat. Shortly after their conversation at the hotel, Michael leads Kenny across a river into the dense jungle deep in the mountains. This is exactly the place where Michael believes gold might be found. Locals live there who search for gold in the river, but they don't have the right tools or knowledge to dig deeper. Upon seeing this place, Kenny is in shock. It looks exactly like in his dream. The men decide to discuss what will be needed to start mining. Michael warns Kenny that things in Indonesia aren't like in America. They'll need official permits, workers, and heavy equipment. He says there's a risk of finding nothing and losing everything. Nevertheless, he agrees. Kenny asks how much money will be needed to start, and Michael estimates the amount at roughly $750,000 to $1 million. Kenny quickly drafts a simple agreement on a napkin. If they find gold, they split the profits equally. If they fail, they split the losses. Michael agrees and signs, and Kenny asks him to keep the napkin. After this, Kenny returns to America and actively begins searching for money. He calls investors again and finds $250,000. Not the amount they need, but Michael is ready to start work. Michael stays in Indonesia to prepare for mining. Costs are very high.
I can't make anything work.
Work out of a bar well?
Just a week later, Kenny flies back to Indonesia to join Michael, and they begin the process. First clearing and preparation, then mining. At first, both feel excitement and hope. They crush rocks and send samples to a laboratory to check for gold. But the first results are disappointing. No gold found. Time passes, the guys check more and more samples, but the results don't change. Kenny starts to lose hope, but Michael repeats that the main thing is patience. Soon, Kenny becomes seriously ill with malaria. At the same time, many workers decide to leave the project because they're not being paid. Kenny begs them to stay, but there's no more money to pay for their work. In the end, only Michael and Kenny remain on site. Kenny's condition worsens. Michael says they might have to stop everything, but Kenny refuses to give up. He gives Michael the last of the money and asks him to do whatever possible. Instead of leaving, Michael goes to the nearby village where the workers are from. He meets with the elder and explains the situation. He promises they will soon find gold, but the elder shows him that their children are sick and the village doesn't even have clean water. Michael spends the last of the funds on buying filters and helps the village get clean drinking water. Thanks to this kind deed, the workers agree to return to the mining site. Meanwhile, Kenny lies powerless for several days due to the illness. When he finally comes to, his first question is, did they find gold? Michael informs him that 14 reports have come in, and none of them showed traces of gold. Kenny feels completely broken, but at the very moment when he's almost ready to give up, Michael shows him the last report that just arrived. It says that gold has finally been found. Kenny is overwhelmed with happiness.
What are you saying, Mike?
We gotta strike, Kenny.
We gotta go mine?
We gotta go mine.
That moment. There's no way I could possibly...
Kenny jumps up with joy. Finally, he believes that their long and painful journey has paid off. A loud cry of pure victory rings through the air. At this moment, everything changed for Washu mining. The news spreads like wildfire. Gold has been discovered in the wild lands of Indonesia. This isn't rumors or guesses, but a bold and loud announcement that captures everyone's attention. The discovery makes headlines and quickly attracts many profit-hungry investors. Sensing the smell of giant money, they rush into this venture, completely forgetting how they once doubted Kenny Wells. He also takes Kay to the field, where he wants to build their future home and finally have children. They took 3 samples to confirm the results, and all of them were successful. At the meeting with investors, the roles reversed. Kenny, although he remembers past humiliations, understands that if he wants to turn his operation into a global mining empire, he needs additional funds, and many will want to participate. But as we know, history plays in our favor. He accepts the offer. This time, the investor sees not risk, but endless prospects. The deal is made, and their business partnership officially begins. Things start developing rapidly. With new investments, Kenny buys a plot of land for himself and Kay, hoping to build a better life. He also opens modern, stylish offices in Jakarta for his growing team, demonstrating the company's success. Things are looking up. Just a few days later, a major and exciting offer comes from a prestigious bank in New York. This deal confirms that Washu Mining is now part of the global business community. Gold mining becomes even more large-scale. Kenny calls Mike, and together they fly to New York to meet with influential financial figures from Wall Street. But if the results are good, the stock will skyrocket. There, a bank manager named Brian offers them a very lucrative deal. The bank wants to buy a large share, especially the very gold vein, the incredibly valuable gold mine. But Kenny, still emotionally attached to the mine he obtained through pain and perseverance, firmly refuses. He believes this mine is his miracle, and he won't let anyone take it away. Brian doesn't argue loudly. He calmly explains that major investors need something real to believe in. He wants them to see the gold themselves before finally approving the deal. Kenny agrees and invites them to come. The following week, a group of cautious investors heads with Kenny to the Indonesian jungle. As soon as they see real gold glittering in the ground, their doubts vanish. Disbelief turns to faith.
See this? Few more like this, you can pay Wall Street.
The bank decides to invest a huge $20 million in Kenny's company and also buys stock. Their company rapidly goes global, becoming one of the most promising mining companies in the world. Kenny's dream is finally starting to come true. To celebrate the incredible success, the company throws a lavish party. But along with the celebration, the dark side of wealth enters his life. Kay, who has been by Kenny's side from the very beginning, watches from the sidelines with a heavy heart. She sees how the man she once loved is gradually changing. Now, surrounded by power and money, Kenny becomes increasingly involved with a new woman named Rachel, who is clearly only interested in his money. This public betrayal deeply wounds Kay. The couple argues, and Kay tells Kenny the bitter truth. The people around him are only interested in money, and as soon as the money disappears, so will they. But she was always with him, even when he had nothing. But Kenny, blinded by pride and the self-satisfaction, lets her leave without even trying to stop her.
Oh, great. Go ahead. Yeah. Pack your shit, run back to your shitty life, huh?
At this moment, it becomes clear what price he paid for his success. Instead of Kay, he chooses Rachel, not understanding that she's only drawn to his money. And with each passing day, Kenny sinks deeper into a luxurious lifestyle, spending money recklessly. Soon, a new figure appears, Mark Hancock, a famous and very influential mining magnate. He comes to meet Kenny at the most unexpected moment.
Kenny Wells?
His company is one of the strongest in the industry, but Kenny, proud of his achievements, neglects the first impression of the meeting and doesn't take Hancock seriously. A few days later, an unexpected offer arrives at the New York bank. Hancock wants to become a partner in Kenny's mine and offers a staggering sum of money, but Kenny takes it as an insult. He refuses, even though it would have brought him $300 million.
I don't even see our name on it, right? You took our fucking name. You took my name off it.
Brian is displeased with Kenny's decision, but Mark Hancock is not the kind of man who quietly accepts rejection. Very soon, there will be consequences. The Indonesian government decides to abruptly shut down Kenny's mine. This shocking decision, according to many, was the result of influence and pressure from Hancock. The closure became a real disaster for Kenny's company. In Indonesia, Mike calls his partner. Disappointment and anger can be heard in his voice. He blames Kenny for going against such a dangerous man as Hancock. He shouldn't have done that, but Kenny made a mistake, and now they're paying for it. A few days pass, and Mike returns from Indonesia to talk to Kenny in person. Their first meeting turns into a fierce argument, full of accusations and emotions. Mike openly blames Kenny's pride for losing their mine. But as their anger subsides, a frightening truth emerges. Mike confesses a shocking fact. His original story about the Ring of Fire was never completely real. He was hired to find gold, but he failed. Instead of admitting it, he made up a legend about a mysterious untouched place full of gold. Since the jungle was too difficult to navigate, his first client gave up, without even checking everything properly, and Mike was never exposed. And then Kenny appeared. By some miracle, despite everything, they actually found gold in the very place that Mike had simply made up. Thanks to his deep understanding of Indonesian politics and culture, Mike comes up with one last desperate attempt. The only person who might be able to help them is Denny Suwandi, the son of the head of state. Denny is known for his love of parties, money, and corrupt deals. Mike believes that if they play on his greed and vanity, he might help reopen the mine. They meet with Denny, who listens to their request with keen interest. However, Denny demands too much for his help. Knowing that Hancock also wants to get the mine, he insists on a colossal share, leaving Kenny and Mike with only 15% of their own project.
85-15 split, if you have the balls.
Although the deal is extremely unfair, they have no better option. Everything is at stake, and they agree. But Denny doesn't stop there. He puts forward another strange condition. He has a huge tiger, and he declares that the deal will only take effect if one of them enters the cage and survives. Without hesitation, driven by everything he's already been through, Kenny steps forward. He enters the cage and, to everyone's surprise, passes this test unharmed. The risky and crazy test is passed. Despite the monstrous price, the mine is back under their control. Meanwhile, in New York, the bank reviews its records and makes a shocking discovery. Brian, the manager who previously supported Kenny, turns out to be involved in a conspiracy with Mark Hancock to shut down the mine. This betrayal immediately leads to his dismissal. For Kenny and the company, everything seems to be looking up again. In a rare moment of reflection, Kenny decides to return to Kay and try to repair the relationship. But when he finds her with another man, something inside him quietly breaks. Without saying a word, he turns around and leaves, carrying the silent weight of everything he's lost. A few days later, Kenny receives an invitation to speak at a famous event dedicated to his unexpected rise to success. Speaking before a large audience, he delivers a deeply emotional speech, speaking from the heart about his difficult past and incredible achievements. His words are filled with genuine sincerity. He shares the pain, hope, and determination that guided him on this journey. But as the hall begins to applaud, Mike quietly leaves the room and will never return. The next morning begins with a nightmare. Approaching his office, he sees a huge angry crowd gathered outside the building. These are the very investors who once believed in him and the company. Now they're consumed with anger and disappointment. They hurl insults, threats, and accusations. Their fury grows more intense, and the situation is about to spiral out of control. Kenny pushes through the crowd, shocked and confused, and finally enters the office. But what he sees inside is far worse than the chaos on the street. A terrible truth is revealed. All the gold they thought they found didn't actually come from a deep mine. It was river gold, real, but planted there specifically to fake the discovery. This gold was simply placed there to convince everyone that a valuable natural deposit had been found. In reality, the company unknowingly became part of an elaborate scam. It's a very old trick. Kenny, who believed in the mine with all his heart, had no idea about this. No one checked the reports or conducted a thorough investigation. Everyone was blinded by greed for the supposed wealth. Immediately after this shocking discovery, a call comes in. Mike has just sold all of the company's shares on the stock market, and after that, the company collapsed instantly. All the money disappeared, and it became clear that this was nothing but a carefully planned fraud. Shortly after this, the company, recently considered a rising star, is immediately shut down by the FBI. Now, in the eyes of the public, Kenny is a liar and a fraud. He's surrounded by a swarm of reporters. He admits that the gold wasn't what it seemed, but insists he himself was a victim of deception. He's just as shocked and devastated as everyone else. Since Mike has disappeared without a trace, all suspicions fall on him. Kenny is left with nothing, and everything he worked for, everything he dreamed of, has vanished, along with his only love. The next day, FBI agents come to Kenny. They inform him that since he never sold his own shares, he's not being charged with fraud. In many ways, he's considered a victim, but the truth is still incredibly hard to accept. Kenny can't believe that his trusted partner, who took care of him when he was sick and was never suspected of betrayal, could be behind such a massive lie. But he can't deny the evidence presented. The FBI shows clear and detailed materials. $160 million was siphoned from the company, secretly transferred through various international bank accounts. These accounts were set up to be untraceable. Mike was last seen in Indonesia. According to the report, the Indonesian military captured him and was transporting him somewhere by helicopter. But during the flight, reportedly, he was allegedly thrown from the helicopter and died. Kenny, shocked and grief-stricken, refuses to believe this version. He insists that Mike faked his death. He was smart enough to plan everything and disappear with the money. Kenny is certain that Mike did this to escape the world and hide forever. But the FBI presents irrefutable proof, an autopsy confirming that Mike's body was found by the military in the dense jungle. Now that charges against Kenny are officially dropped, he's released. He emerges from this situation devastated, both emotionally and financially. Everything he built is gone. The only thing he has left is the painful memory of a destroyed friendship. In the end, Kenny returns to Kay, the only person who truly cared about him throughout the entire journey. When she sees him, tired, broken, her face lights up with quiet happiness. Despite everything, she still feels something for him and lets him in. During their reunion, Kay gives Kenny a stack of letters that arrived while he was gone. He slowly opens one of them. Inside, he finds a crumpled napkin. It's the same napkin that he and Mike once signed together. Their 50-50 contract, a symbol of partnership and a shared dream. But there was something else, folded with it. A check for $82 million. Now, everything becomes clear. Mike survived after all. He didn't completely betray Kenny. Instead, after pulling off the grand fraud, he still honored his part of the agreement and sent Kenny his rightful share, and then disappeared completely, leaving no trace.